Pelagic birding trips are a unique experience where you get to go out on a boat to see if you can find seabirds you would rarely get the chance to see from land. These trips normally book up far in advance, and it could be a gamble as to what birds you might see. There are a lot of factors to plan for on these trips, including travel, weather, and seasickness prevention, just to name a few. For this experience, my friend Nathaniel and I went to North Carolina in February for a trip with Seabirding, run by Brian Pattison and Kate Sutherland, in hopes of seeing some unique Atlantic species. We arrived the day before our trip, doing some birding closer to the middle of the state, before arriving on the coast. We just got to our hotel here in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. So it was a lot of travel today. We got to see the red-cockaded woodpeckers earlier, which was super cool. And now we're probably gonna just charge up all our stuff, go to bed relatively soon because we had to be up really early for the pelagic trip. I'm hoping we see a lot of these cool classic species that you can find off the East Coast here and that we get a lot of time with them, but you really never know how one of these trips is gonna go. And we gotta leave here pretty early. It's probably about 5:15 to get to the docks about 5:45 and leave around 6. The next day, we woke up bright and early and got to the marina before the sun was up. I'm really excited to get out and have a chance to see some of these awesome birds that you don't normally get to see. There's just something exciting about pelagic trips, to be able to see these ocean birds that you wouldn't otherwise have any chance at seeing this close. We boarded our boat, the Stormy Petrel II, and our captain Brian gave us an introduction to the boat and the rules for the trip. And then we were ready to go out to sea. Give me a wistful stare into the distance. Wow, look at that. You look like you're ready to see some seabirds. I am. The February air was chilled, and we managed to pick out a few species while the light was still fairly dark. My initial thought so far is it's really cold, and it's tough because it's so dark, so it's hard to get like any really kind of good media at this point. So once the sun comes up a little bit, it'll warm up, and it'll also be easier to take media. As we moved out into deeper water, we started to see different species. Northern gannets began to soar past us, as red-throated loons zoomed by slightly higher up, and flocks of razorbills flew closer to the water. Although seeing new species was exciting, there was a lot of spray from the ocean, and throughout most of the trip we could only really be on one side of the boat at a time, which was the drier side for the moment. Here in the cabin, and the story of the trip is it's been very bumpy, but I talked to someone, I was like, is it normally like this? He's like, oh, this is extra calm. So it's been switching between like survival mode of trying not to fall over or get spray on the camera, because it's been spraying a lot. We can't even go on the left side, so we're all over on the starboard side. But switching between survival mode and then trying to like get up and get media of things. So it's definitely difficult. I'm hoping it'll smooth out at some point, but I'm not really sure. Nathaniel actually lost his glasses, so we were standing on one side and they came off, and then they went through the holes they have on the side of the boat to get the water out. But it's very choppy, very wavy, hard to get media of stuff. Did get razorbill for a lifer for me, so that's been really cool. But like there was a Manx shearwater over on the other side, and it's hard to make your way from one area to the other. So by the time I got there, it was already gone. So it's been difficult. And it sounds like we're stopping. The bird we stopped for was a common murre, an abundant species on West Coast pelagics, but one that isn't seen as often in our location. Common murre. After enjoying our close-up views of the murre, we continued on, with lots of spray coming in over the sides and salt water dripping on us from the upper deck. For the time, the main concern became keeping our gear and ourselves as dry as possible. So we moved away from that spot where stuff was just dripping on us all the time, and it's a lot nicer up here. The wind is drying everything out a little bit, but we're only 10 miles offshore. We gotta get like 20 to 30, I think, before we see some of those other species we're looking for. After getting a little further out, we had a breakthrough, and we stopped to look at a tiny, adorable bird, the dovekie. Dovekies are the smallest and most abundant alcids in this part of the Atlantic, and have been compared to an elongated grapefruit or a football floating in the water. They dive to find small marine animals to eat and can be identified by their black and white color and tiny size. Everyone was excited to get such up-close views of this species. We had a really nice close-up view of a dovekie, so that was a great experience with that bird. It was just hanging out right by the boat, and anytime we stop, I feel like there's a chance you could see something incredible. A little further out, we saw another species up close that was one of our main targets, the Atlantic puffin. The Atlantic puffin is an iconic bird, often shown on television in their breeding plumage, with a vibrant orange, red, yellow, and black bill, black and white body, very distinctive facial markings, and orange legs and feet. However, non-breeding birds have a much darker face, with their brighter colors more muted. In this stage, seeing one felt similar to seeing the other alcids, but was still extremely exciting. During the breeding season, Atlantic puffins nest on islands, and they are often seen bringing food back for their chicks. The rest of the year, they are far out in the ocean, which is where we encountered them. Atlantic puffins can live to be over 40 years old. We got puffin! After our exciting puffin views, we continued on our way to the continental shelf. These areas drop into deep ocean water, which causes upwellings, and are also places where warm and cool waters mix, fueling the marine food chain and normally attracting seabirds. Although upon our arrival, it didn't originally seem like the case here. So we're in the shelf area, so this is kind of our destination we wanted to reach to hopefully find some of those interesting species, but it has just been dead. We saw some puffins, which was really cool. It was fairly brief, but they were pretty close up, so that was awesome. Always fun to see puffins, but it has just been completely dead. It's warmer out in this area, and there's not as much spray, so that's been a pleasant surprise. It's nice to keep everything a little more dry and to be more comfortable, but there's just like barely any birds out here, just the occasional dovekie. That seems to be about it. Eventually, we seemed to get to the right spot, with more birds popping up, including more puffins, dovekies, and some Bonaparte's gulls, while American herring gulls followed the boat after a little chumming with dead fish. The most interesting bird we saw in this area was a single red phalarope that didn't stick around for long. However, it was a lifer for me, so I was pretty excited about it. Just got red phalarope, which is a lifer. Really bad pictures, but hey, a new bird, and it feels so much better to get something new out here after kind of seeing the same stuff, but glad to check that one off the list. Red phalaropes are very pale in their non-breeding plumage, which is in stark contrast to their vibrant colors seen during the breeding season in adults. Red phalaropes can be seen offshore in certain areas on the east, west, and Gulf coasts during the winter, and also during migration, making them a desired species during pelagic voyages. After reaching our furthest point out at sea where we had the highest chance of seeing more uncommon species such as little gull, skiwas, and open ocean shearwaters, we started to pick up speed and head back towards shore. I took a break in the cabin where Nathaniel had already taken up residence. I think Nathaniel's seasick medication is knocking him out a bit. He's down for the count. As we got closer to the shore, our crew started chumming more consistently, and the highlights were definitely the northern gannets, circling the boat and diving into the water, providing great views and opportunities for photos and videos. Pictures and videos of them. This is a really cool part of the Pelagic, and they're doing their plunge dives. They're circling around the boat, and they're going straight down trying to catch some of the chum we're putting out. So this has been really cool. Northern Gannets are sleek seabirds with a distinctive silhouette. Adults have beautiful black and white plumage with some tan on their head and a striking teal eye ring. Northern Gannets can be seen across the Atlantic, breeding in cliffside colonies and spreading out more in the winter along the coastlines and open ocean. Known for their plunge dives, they can use their feet and wings to swim further down in search of prey, as deep as 72 feet below the surface, although most of their dives are much more shallow. Also partaking in the chum were many gulls, some of which also offered some nice views. Eventually, we made it back to shore and concluded our 10-hour trip out at sea.
That was fun. Puffin, life or dovekie.
Got some sleep?
Yeah, unwanted sleep.
We just got done with our Pelagic trip, and it was quite an adventure. We got very soaked with salt water. We didn't necessarily see all the species we were hoping to see, but we did get some really cool ones and have really nice views and good numbers of those species. So it was certainly an adventure, but I'm glad we were able to go on it and experience this Pelagic in North Carolina. Going on a Pelagic trip is always a unique experience. With so many variables at play, it's nice when everything comes together and you can at least have the chance to get out on the water and see what you can find, especially when those species are as cool as dovekies, puffins, gannets, and phalaropes. Despite missing out on the shearwaters, skuas, and other more uncommon birds, we still enjoyed our time out on the water, and it was definitely an adventure. If you'd like to book a trip with Brian and the crew, you can check out their website at pattison.com. Have you ever done an East Coast Pelagic? What was your experience? Let us know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.